Think Realty Nation, it's your host, Abhi Golhar. Welcome to the Think Realty podcast today. You are watching this podcast because you want to know the latest of what's going on in the SFR space. Build to rent, build for rent. These are really important topics and trends that we as real estate investors need to be focused in on. And I have a very awesome special guest for you today. Special guest today has an alternate ID. He's known as the Real Estate Ninja. So maybe you can take a couple guesses while, I'm talking about the podcast sponsor for today. And if you can't guess his name, well, shame on you, because you need to know his name in just a second. So we're talking about build to rent, we're talking about SFR, and then we'll talk about how to optimize your business in a post-COVID world to wrap up the show. It's going to be a fun show. Make sure you take a lot of notes. Today's podcast sponsor is Real Property Management, the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. Learn more at realpropertymgt.com or call 888-806-7088. Our guest today is hailed as the real estate ninja, the property maven, the guy, the ultimate Bruce McNeilage. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, man?
Very much.
Awesome. So give us a little background. I remember interviewing you for the Think Realty radio show that was maybe about a year and a half or 2 years ago. And we talk. And what I love about our conversations is we're always talking about the latest trends and what is to come with real estate investors and with what we should be paying attention to. And you're at the forefront of this. You've been featured in magazines. I think I saw you on the cover of like 2 or 3 magazines over the last year. I'm like, I wish I could keep up with you, but you do such a great job. Give us a little intro. Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. So in 2005, I came up with an idea of building new houses, renting them out, collecting the rent, of course, paying down the mortgage. And that was in 2005. Fast forward to today, build to rent is all the rage. A lot of the major national home builders are getting in the business with divisions for build to rent. Anybody in the SFR space wants to know more about it. And I'm just fortunate that I started doing it in 2005.
So when it comes to build to rent, and I remember having this conversation with you on the radio show, the Think Realty radio show, and I would say it wasn't, you started this in 2000, you talked about this in 2005. I think I interviewed you in 2018 maybe, roughly 2018. And even then it was still a relatively new concept for institutional and then of course investors around the country. Give us a little background on what build to rent is and why we as real estate investors should be focused on this trend.
Sure. So build to rent is basically the intentional building of a single family house for the sole purpose of renting it out, never becoming available to the public, not in the MLS. A permit is pulled, a house is built, and it's used as a rental house. And that's what build to rent is. And that is really where I think the rental business is going, because there's so much capital chasing so many houses. All the low-hanging fruit is gone from the courthouse steps. And so we are having to manufacture product, the houses, just to be able to deploy and invest the capital that needs to get in the space, wants to get in the space, but is having trouble gathering up and purchasing the number of houses they need to kind of keep the machine going.
Now, what's the difference between, say, a build to rent and a build for rent? Is there much of a difference there?
Yes, and thanks for asking. I came up with an idea a few months ago, and I don't know if I'm a pioneer or not, but everybody was calling build to rent and I looked at it and say, there's a lot of build for rent out there. Yes. And the difference is build to rent means I'm the developer, I'm the builder, I'm taking all the risk, and then I own the rental houses at the end. A build for rent is the intentional building of that house to be used as a rental property, but maybe not by me, the investor, not by the end user, but you are doing a JV with a local or regional or national builder, or you're just buying inventory houses, maybe the end of the quarter or the end of the year. So you didn't build the house, you didn't take the risk, you ended up with a rental house. That's called build for rent. Where build to rent is you're actually doing the work yourself, developer, builder, owner. And I think a lot of people, because of the risk, are going more for the intentional build for rent house versus taking all the development and construction risk in just the normal build to rent.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I was reading through, I think maybe a blog post or two of yours, and it's just like, I'm so confused, but it makes sense. I'm like your ultimate white collar worker, right? Like, I don't want to get my hands dirty. I look at a sledgehammer, I'm like, no, I'm not picking that up at all. Maybe for demo day, because that's like relatively therapeutic, but that's the only time. For a build for rent perspective, that makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you just about the elephant in the room. When it comes to build to rent or build for rent, are there specific markets that you do this in? Because, like, if I'm doing this in Atlanta, can't it get really expensive? And then I'm now concerned about yield and the timeline that it's going to take for the city to give me the approvals on this. Can I help me walk through that pathway for me? Because it's a little confusing.
Okay, so for us, we're in 4 states, and I've set up the business just to be in the Southeast, and that is in Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, the MSAs there, and also Columbia, South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina, and also a small operation in North Carolina. And so that's where Kinloch Partners is. Now, a lot of the other players are also in the Sun Belt area. They're out west in Las Vegas, Phoenix, that area of the world. And really that's where the growth is, Southeast, Southwest. There's obviously build to rents going on in Indianapolis and other parts of the country. Jacksonville is another area that's very popular, but I just stay focused in the Southeast.
Got it. And from a market perspective, I love Columbia, South Carolina. I recently found this. I'm like, holy cow, this is actually a pretty awesome market. The Atlanta MSAs that you're referring to, any specific cities that you want to shout out?
Yeah. So when I started the business in Atlanta in 2010, we were buying all REO assets, and I was southwest of the airport, East Point, College Park, Fulton, not Fulton County, Fairburn, everything down there, Union City. I've now migrated to the west and also the northeast, but I'm still active doing the work. It's just not build to rent in southwest Fulton County. Our next deal is going to be up in the Cobb, Cherokee County area. And then in Nashville, we've just completed our second full subdivision in Spring Hill, Tennessee. And Spring Hill is where I started in 2005. So I haven't really gotten too far, as the joke I tell people. I'm still in Spring Hill building complete subdivisions. And then in Columbia, we're in about 5 cities. And in Greenville, Spartanburg, I think we're in 8 cities.
Incredible. How does the capital work for that? Like, what is the expectation? Let's say I'm an investor and I have a little bit of new construction experience, I have a little bit of flipping experience, maybe somebody watching the show fits that bill. How do I get into this space? Do I have to think differently? Do I have to do maybe more prefab manufactured housing? Is that the way that you drive down cost and still hit the yields you're looking for? Maybe give me an example of what you're doing in Spring Hill or in South Carolina, what your overall, say, acquisition cost would be, the construction cost would be, and then the rental rate, and then potential yield.
So there's a couple things there. There's a cost to the dirt or the land. You have to get it entitled and developed. And during that roughly year process, you're paying on your debt. You're hoping construction materials go up, like, lumber's recently gone up about 100%. All the factors come into play, and then you build the house, and then you can rent it. Now, for a smaller investor, somebody just getting started, you would probably buy infill lots, maybe 4, 5, 6, 10 infill lots, build your houses, get started that way, start cash flowing them. And many banks are going to be reluctant to really loan you maybe money on more than 4 or 5 houses. Once you get them up and running, stabilized, the bank will probably loan you more money. But that's the way a new investor is going to get started. Also, a new investor, I would encourage just to buy the finished house, the completed house from the builder. And you should negotiate a discount of roughly 10 to 15%. And why the builder would do that is they don't have to pay commissions. They don't have to pay overhead costs. They don't have to pay for closing costs that they pay for most buyers. And so if the builder's giving you the house for 10% less than it's appraising at, they're roughly meeting their numbers. So it's not really costing them anything. As far as lending and borrowing money, it can be a construction loan if you're building it from scratch, and then you perm that out after you pay off the construction loan, and you just do a permanent financing with the bank. Or it can just be acquisition financing, like you're buying a rental house because you're just buying it at a discount from the builder. The nice thing about buying it from a discount from a builder is you are not risking any money until the day you close. You might have put down $1,000 earnest money, $2,000 of earnest money, but no construction, no materials, no land development that can really miss the mark and hurt your pro formas. You're taking the risk from the day that you close. And so I think that's really the way for a smaller investor to get started. Buy 2 or 3 houses at a discount from a builder, and then that's where you're going to start most likely going forward if you're just getting in the build to rent or build to for rent space.
And I think this is a really unique strategy because ultimately I think a lot of real estate investors are looking for long-term wealth, and the way that will happen is is just to buy and hold for a while, and then to add the cash flow into your overall system. And I think that's really smart. You pick those markets strategically. Obviously, you're finding really good deals in these markets. How do you go about finding markets and finding deals within those markets? Who are you partnering with? What conversations are you having? What are you looking for?
So I think I've been lucky in finding the markets, and I look for a number of things. I look for jobs. I look for quality of life. I look for things like hospitals, medical, retail, airports, things like that. And then also I'm very familiar with the automobile industry. So Spring Hill has the largest General Motors plant in the country. And so I've started in Spring Hill. You look in Columbia, South Carolina. You look in Greenville, North Carolina. That's the largest BMW plant in the world. Not just this country, the world. Michelin's national headquarters is there. So I like automotive, I like retail, I like hospital, healthcare, I like universities. I like a town that I go to have a number of colleges or universities. That's how I pick my MSAs. And I've just been very fortunate. I've picked some really good MSAs, and I'm not looking to go to different MSAs. I just want to go deeper and wider in the MSAs that I'm in, build more houses, do more subdivisions, and acquire more houses. How you pick an MSA is the first thing is I would look at the MSA you're already in. I mean, there's no reason to go somewhere else if you're already in a good MSA. And that's where you really have the knowledge of the good parts of town, the bad parts of town, the good schools. So I'd first look at the MSA I'm in. And then if that's not something that pencils or makes sense, I might look at the state next to it. As far as penciling, my goal is to make as high of a gross cap rate and then control what I spend on taxes, on maintenance, upkeep, CapEx, management, all these other costs. And my goal is to make somewhere between a 10% and a 12% gross cap rate. And then I really want to net out about a 6 to 7% net cap rate after all those expenses.
Help me understand then, maybe somebody listening, somebody watching is saying, well, okay, I can go through all that, or I can just go buy a rental in, I don't know, Birmingham, Alabama for $45,000 and have it rent out for me for, $450, $500 a month. Why go through the trouble of doing build to rent, build for rent?
If you're going to do something like that at that price point, you're going to be chasing rent every month. And a $35,000 or $40,000 house isn't going to be brand new. You're probably buying a 20, 30, 40-year-old house that you'll need more CapEx reserves and things like that. And in my opinion, an older house is not as going to be as desirable to someone to rent, with the exception of somebody with modest means. And I don't believe it's going to appreciate at a number that my brand new houses are. So why would I do it? Brand new houses are going to appreciate at a higher percentage. People stay longer in a brand new house. My average tenant stays between 5 and 6 years. Most of the majors and other people in the rental business keep a tenant about 2 to 3 years. So you don't have the same turns, the same costs. People pay a premium on a brand new house, and all those things are very important. A $400, $500, $600 a month tenant is not my area that I work in. I would say anything 1,400 or over. And as you go up the spectrum of the higher and higher rents, you're getting someone that's more stable as far as their job, their income, their savings, and things like that. And so that's really what I'm looking for. Brand new people staying longer, and paying more, paying a premium, and being in an area where there's high growth, a lot of retail, things that are going on that are very positive.
And at the end of the day, it's a brand new house. So
everything's under warranty. The roof's not bad. The water heater's not bad. The appliances are under warranty. My HVAC systems are under warranty for 10 years. I mean, maybe the first couple months you find out a little thing here, a little thing there goes wrong, but that's inside the warranty period. Builders give you a 1-year warranty. After a year, all the kinks should be worked out. And unless your tenant does something to abuse the house, they break a window, break an appliance, they don't change the air conditioner filters, those things, you don't have any CapEx. You're not worried about a roof, water heater, and HVAC. And those are the things that can really come into play and wipe somebody out for a year or two, and cause them not to have gains. Whereas I know I'm not going to have those type of expenses. And so I'm not reserving for things like CapEx because I'm just not going to have it.
If we want to learn more about what you're doing in the space, and for those that have a little capital, maybe you're raising as well, how can we get in touch?
Sure. So my email address is bruce@kinlochpartners.net. It's KINLOCH partners.net. Our website is just kinlochpartners.net. That's the best way to get in touch with us. If you Google my name or Google Kinloch's name, you'll see some things about us, what we're doing, some articles and different things, interviews. But we have most of that on our website, and we update that pretty much weekly. So you can see what we're doing, some success we've had, some press. And that would be a way to learn about what we're doing and about the build-to-rent business, but also a way of contacting me as well.
That sounds great. Bruce, this was really informative. Thank you so much for even, for me, clarifying the build-to-rent versus build-for-rent. And I'm going to remember that moving forward. I think you should adjust your email to realestateninja@kinlochpartners.net. I think that's something that, maybe like a brand strategy. I know your time is valuable, so I'm going to let you go. I'm going to keep doing my sessions. But, man, this was fun. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your time. Nice to see you again.
Hey, likewise. I'll see you next time. Think Realty Nation, this next segment is brought to you by Clint Coons of Anderson Business Advisors, nationally recognized for providing bulletproof asset protection, tax, and business strategy advice to real estate investors. Go to getbulletprooftoday.com and receive his book, Asset Protection for Real Estate Investors, for free while supplies last. In a recent article written on thinkrealty.com by Don Wenner, he talks about building an elite organization. And in doing so, you're protecting against any downside, especially during COVID-19. There are a couple things that he mentions which I agree with. Number one, you want to have the right strategy, the right people, and the right operations. This is absolutely key. Very similar to Marcus Lemonis, the host of The Profit on CNBC. He talks about people, process, and product. You need to know your people and have really great people. You need to have the right process and the right product. Any one of these legs that's compromised, you no longer have a business. And guess what? The business will not scale. So I completely agree with Don in this article. So again, check it out. One of the things is he talks about lenders. Quote, given how lenders have changed the lending strategies to mitigate risk, real estate investors should do the following. Okay, you as a real estate investor, you need to do the following. Number one, you need to make sure that you have more capital to show your lender. That's pretty standard, right? That makes sense. You should also predict a higher cost of capital. It's no longer going to be the 7.5 to 8.5% interest. And like the 1 point, it's going to be 2 to 3 points and 10 to 12, 13% interest. So really be prepared for that. Additionally, you want to focus on building relationships with lenders and start building them into your overall partnership strategy so that, hey, if they have a deal that went bad, they can potentially bring you into the loop, and all of a sudden, now you have deal flow. So read this article. I think it's going to be really good for you because when it comes to right now, this is before the end of 2020. Again, work on your people, work on your tech and your operations, and make sure you have the right exit strategy. Don't be the guy or the gal that went all in on paying premium for a home just to make sure that you could list it on Airbnb because that's what you were guaranteed on a nightly basis. You know what? That model didn't work as well as we thought it did. Think Realty Nation, that's a wrap. You have any questions, get in touch with us. A huge shout out to today's sponsor of the podcast, Real Property Management, which is the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. Learn more at realpropertymgt.com or call 888-806-7088. You want to get in touch with us here at Think Realty? It's super easy, and you know how to do it. Go to thinkrealty.com. If you have questions for me, you can find me anywhere online at Abhi Golhar. Until next time, happy investing.